All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like our IT problems are now resolved. Thank you to staff for addressing that. I'm going to call to order the special meeting of council for Monday, April 24th at 6:45. Council, there's been an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented? Hearing none, will somebody please move adoption of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Muri, second by Councillor Ma. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. This meeting is a special meeting, and what all that means in our system is that back in December, when we set out the calendar of events, we did not have a regular meeting of council scheduled for tonight, and so we added it so that we could specifically address the financial plan and the bylaws for the budget that are circulated as the agenda presentation today. This item was discussed initially at a workshop of council. I believe it was it March 20? And so the item has already been discussed by council at length at that time, April 17th. That was only last week. That's not when this one was. Okay. So yes, you're correct. Sorry. Tax rate distribution was introduced on April 17th, and the discussion for the financial plan took place at the tail end of March. And so the council has already had an initial discussion about this at the workshop level, and this is returning to a regular meeting of council for a formal decision. The item is up for first, second, and third reading. I will go to staff just to see if you have any additional comments at this time before we seek a motion from council. Mr. Wardell.
Through your worship, no additional comments at this time.
Thank you very much. I'll be moving the staff recommendation. Is there a seconder for the staff recommendation? Move second by Councillor Ma. And just my own comments on it, the same comments I made at the workshop last time, was that once the decision was made to go to 5 1/4 as being the tax rate, I didn't hear a compelling argument for us to distribute it differently across the classes. The impact is going to be felt evenly across the classes in terms of providing services to those different groups and organizations. And so I will be supportive of even distribution across classes this year. We have in some years varied from that and moved some funds from one class to another. But I haven't been convinced of a need to do that in this year's cycle. So I will be supportive of the 5 1/4 being approved across all of the classes. Councillor Ma, you were the seconder on the matter. Any additional comments? Thank you. Would any other member of council like to add comments? Councillor Muri?
Thank you, Mayor Little. Well, yeah, so I'm not supportive, but I will agree that we need to go forward with this tax rate evenly across the board. I think the realization when people get their tax bills, they're going to realize what 5 1/4% means. It's those cumulative totals. And I think that going forward, we really need to, especially with the tax rates, we need to look at, and just the tax rate period, we need to look at real numbers more. So often we look at percentage increases and it doesn't tell a story to the residents. Like small business, for instance, on this one, the average small business property will see an increase of nearly $1 million based on this 5 1/4% on the average. Now, for some businesses, those properties are owned by large corporations. Other properties are owned by the owner. There is an ability for them to write off that increase, 50% of it. There is an ability for them to write off 50% of that increase. But businesses are struggling. We are seeing, one after another close their doors, and from big chains to small pop shops, and then ones that can't move forward on expansion or redevelopment or improvements because there's such a list of things that they have to check off and it's just too expensive. So I think that 5 1/4 is big, and I understand it's in a very unusual year. We're certainly down in the lower third of tax increases across the region. So, if that's good news, if that's good news, I guess I'll take it. But I hope we get back to a more reasonable tax rate and tax level for next year. And again, I think the process was a challenging one in the sense that, all the good stuff, all the icing was what was coming forward for the cuts. And I think we could have, and we talk about, and that's the department submitting what they can't manage going forward. That's not the tax department or the finance department. They're just the numbers people. But I really think that we have, and we talk about, Mr. Stewart talks about how we have to make this, more efficient going forward, the budget process. I just don't think we get enough discussion on, sort of the items that we're looking at deferring going forward on the tax for the budget. And I think if council was, allowed to come in earlier, and I understand it was an election year, so there's always challenges with that. But I just think we have to do better for the community. We have to talk about our priorities. I think, Mr. Milburn last week said, we're in charge of the CACs, the community amenity contributions, and we'll get to decide, what we're gonna, pay for through CACs, et cetera. But it doesn't work like that. It's not even close to working like that. There's items brought forward through the budget and they're identified in a graph, and we get that, at one time during the year, and then there's a meeting, and before you know it, we're approving a tax rate. So I just don't think it's as simple as it's laid out. I think real numbers are really important, and I think that real number, the cumulative total of what is coming on people's tax bills this year, Metro Vancouver, TransLink, the provincial government, our addition is going to be a big number. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are land rich but cash poor, and they're going to be surprised. So anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will be supporting even distribution. I agree with your comments, Mayor Little. I don't, in this case, see a reason to reallocate between the different classes. Even distribution of the 5.25% is the simplest and the fairest approach, in my view, to the allocation process that is before us this evening. I do look forward to progress being made on the capped heavy industry. And I look forward to hearing back on the Ports Property Tax Act, because if it is the case that at the end of this process, the only tax group that pays less than 5.25 in a tax rate increase is capped heavy industry, that would really highlight, from my point of view, the flaws in that capped heavy industry tax regime. So I hope that this is the year that we make some progress on changing the Ports Property Tax Act and the capped heavy industry class. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Council, I see no further speakers at this time. I'm going to call a question.
Give Mr. Wardell the last word on this and ask him what his thoughts are on any revisions or change to the Port Property Tax Act.
Through your work.
We might hire him back to go after that, after he's retired.
Through your worship, the Port Property Tax Act was scheduled to terminate in 2018, but the government of the day elected to continue it. I'm sure it's quite favorable for those that enjoy that. I would like to remind council that the average value of land that is cap properties is about $400,000 an acre, where non-cap properties values are about $4.5 million an acre. So I think it's clear that there at least needs to be a discussion, and through the CAO and CFO's office, that discussion should continue. And we will work on that through both directly with the province and through municipal finance reform initiatives, which are being hosted both by Metro Vancouver and the Union of BC Municipalities.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Wardell.
Mr. Wardell.
Councillor Hanson, your hand is still up. Was that from earlier?
Yep, my apologies.
Okay, no problem. Prepared to call the question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Council. We have completed the business of the meeting this evening, so I will accept adjournment. Moved by Councillor Murray, accepted. Thank you all very much. As Councillor Murray was still in the room at the time she moved that, I think. So for those who are assembled here today, we did do the special meeting here in this room, but we're actually going to do the workshop in the other room, although, you know, I have seen quite a number of people walk down the hallway. Perhaps we can just have staff go and take a look at how many people are in the other room and make a call as to